So a very warm welcome, good morning and a warm welcome to all of you. Today we have a very dynamic speaker with us, Ms. Rubby Chawla, who's the founder, president of Indian Patient Society for Primary Immunodeficiency. Uh, it's a registered society of which the initiative was taken up by Mrs. Rubby Chawla and Mr. Rakesh Chawla, who have contributed their time, money, and efforts to get this society working up and about. Over to you, Ruby ji, for your introduction and telling us more about your society.
Thank you, Samirji, for the introduction, and welcome all to IPSPI, Indian Patient Society for Primary Immune Deficiencies. Myself, Rubby Chawla, founder and president of IPSPI. Should I start my screen sharing now? I think.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So like IPSPI, because you have already given my introduction, I think it's much more like, of course, I am a postgraduate in commerce, and I was teaching commerce. I have taught around 14 years in college to the students, and then did my public health also. Post-graduation diploma in public health out of curiosity about this health, because as my family was affected, and then I was into this primary immunodeficiency diseases disorders. Now my son now, like he is 28 years and he also suffers, but like he was diagnosed in time and now he's leading a normal productive life. Likewise, we have patient families where in their families some or other person has been affected, and when the cases have been picked up in time and diagnosed in time and taking proper treatment, they are leading normal lives. This is first time in Indian history that our children who were diagnosed in time, picked up in time, and getting proper treatment are now adults, and that's a very positive aspect. Because when we started, I was really lost, because when this thing came up in the family, everybody told we have never heard of this, anybody like in my family or anywhere. So like we were thinking that it is something very, very special, but we were induced to, means like we became the national member organization. That I will gradually tell you, carry over. So like first let me go to the second slide. Welcome you all, and about IPSPI. Just a second. So Indian Patient Society for Primary Immunodeficiency is a national non-profit organization which was formed in 2004. We do have our website. It's www.ipspindia.org. And we are the national member organization of IPOP, that is International Patients Organization for Primary Immune Deficiencies. Actually, when I was just talking before, I was just mentioning about that, like when we heard about primary immune deficiencies, it was just something out of the blue, and we just thought that we haven't heard of all this before, and what will be the life of primary immune deficiency patients. That was a big question before us. But when we attended their meetings in 2005, we became the members in 2005 of International Patients Organization for Primary Immune Deficiency, and we got an international platform to interact with the primary immune deficiency patients, adults, and there we had that knowledge, and we came to know that yes, they can lead a near normal life if they get the proper treatment and if they are diagnosed in time, and that was a big motivation for us. We have World PI Week from 22nd to 29th of April every year. That's a global World PI Week, and that is observed by our international organization, that is the umbrella global organization IPOP. And this year also we have it. Actually, last 2 years we were unable to conduct any physical meetings. Only we had the webinars and all. But this time we are planning to have some physical meetings around India nationwide. So we will be having a few in Lady Harding and then Chacha Nehru, Bal Chikitsalaya and LNJP. So we have planned and we will be having a few meetings. So access to healthcare is a basic human right. That's what our all around the globe in this slogan is there. Lives can be saved if they are diagnosed in time. Our alliances like IPOP, International Patient Organization, which is the umbrella organization globally. Then IFO, International Alliance of Patients Organization, that's also a global patients organization, charity registered in UK. Then we partner IORD, ORDI, then Indo-US Rare is there, and also one more World Patients Alliance, that is a charity registered in US that has come up, and we are also members of that. These are some of the activities. We will just go through some pics, slides of that presentation and stall of Indian Patient Society for Primary Immunodeficiencies is held in all the international and national conferences that are held nationwide. And this is one of the slides showing the stall that was held in Mumbai. And there we can see Dr. V.M. Katoj. He is also in our medical advisory team. And Dr. Manisha, he's ex-director of ICMR, and Dr. Manisha, she's also from National Hematology Research Institute there in Mumbai. Then Dr. Balaram. We had the first Eastern Zone CME on PID at Kalinga Institute of Medical Sciences, KIT University, Bhubaneswar, Odisha, in 2012. And founder of KIT University, Dr. Achyut Samanta, laid the stone. And it was a very successful meeting we had over there. Then we had the international CME also at King's Kitt University. We had a number of delegate speakers from nationwide, and even we had the international speaker, Dr. Teresa from Spain. She is the ex-director of IPOP, that is the International Patients Organization for Primary Immunodeficiency. We had a 2 days workshop and the CME was very successful. This is one of the slides showing the presentation by Dr. Teresa Espinol, and that was also World Primary Immunodeficiency Week. We marked it from 22nd, that is observed from 22nd of 29th April, and this is somewhere in 2013 we had held this CME, and she was the speaker. And here's a slide showing Rishi, executive member of IPSBI, presenting on that day. We had a silent march at Jantar Mantar, Delhi in 2014. So all the patient families had gathered together with the, and we had partnered with ORDI. So here the founder of ORDI, Dr. Prasanna Shirol, is also there. So we had a very good meeting and interactive session of patients and doctors, patient families and doctors. This is one of the slides showing the launch of the World PI Week by releasing the Jeffrey Model Foundation gas balloons. Actually, this is a global activity, and JMF, Jeffrey Model Foundation from USA, they had sent us some gas balloons, and we launched it. We just launched the balloons, and Dr. I.C. Verma was along with us, Dr. Dinesh Kaul from Sir Gangaram Hospital, and of course, we had partnered with ORDI. We keep on meeting our health and family welfare ministers, bureaucrats, and other ministers. And this is one of the meeting with Dr. Harshvardhan at his residence, Government of India, New Delhi. Then Indian Organization for Rare Diseases also conducted some events at Hyderabad and Chennai. And these are the slides showing Dr. Ramaya Muthyala is there from Indian Organization for Rare Diseases. We had that meeting, we had the panel discussion, as well as the National Patient Advocacy Network meetings were conducted. And I was the panelist and mentor. It was a great opportunity for us to see Dr. APG Abdul Kalam, because he was the guest speaker, and it was a great moment to be with him at Rare Diseases Conference held by IORD at Hyderabad and Chennai. We also keep on collaborating with other medical institutes, and this is one of the IPSPI collaborated with SVPGP Qatar and conducted one CME conference on rare on PID, partnered with with the ORDI. Here founder is there, Prasanna Shirol, and Nibi was there at Cuttack. And then this is one of the slides showing about the rare diseases conference on rare diseases in Delhi that was held, and with delegates and IPSPI patients in IORD conference in Chennai. These are also some of the patients affected by ataxia. So ataxia telangiectasia is also one of the form of the PID, because PID is more than now 400 of its types. We were selected to and got the opportunity to attend the IAPO Global Patients Congress GPC 2020 in London. That was held from 9 to 11th April 2016. Okay. So there was a presentation, and here is the. Then our IPOP also now has that Asia regional meetings, and that have been held at Hong Kong and Bangkok so far. So this is also one of the slides showing about that regional meeting that was held in Hong Kong. IPSPI has represented and participated in the international conferences held in Europe. That are biennial meetings that are held jointly. IPOP holds it jointly with ESID, European Society for Immune Deficiencies, and INGID, that is International Group of Nurses for Immune Deficiencies. And these conventions, we have got the opportunity to represent and participate in that on and off. And now, like, this is one of the meetings, international conference meetings that was held in Bengaluru. This is the slide showing that. And Joe Strappel, our chairperson from IPOP, had attended the meeting in Bengaluru. And this is one of the slide. And this is in Spain, like this meeting. And this is, of course, about the NIRD consultative meeting for national policy on rare diseases in Delhi. We also had the WPIW in 2018 in All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. And here is one of the slides. Dr. Bagri is presenting and Dr. S.K. Kabra is presenting on that day. So we had the patients and the doctors interactive session also. And then we had a walk on primary immune deficiencies for the awareness on primary immune deficiencies, and that we collaborated with AMSA, Asian Medical Students Association. That we did in Jantar Mantar, New Delhi. That slide is missing. Okay, this slide is of that. Collaborated with AMSA and had a walk in Jantar Mantar for the awareness on PID. Then we also had WPIW 2017 in Hotel Conclave, New Delhi. These are some of the patient families. We had a get together there. Then we had that international patients Congress, Immune Deficiencies Congress in Dubai. So this is one of the slide. Rishi Chawla from Executive Director of the IPSPA represented in that. And this is also one of the meeting in Lisbon, Portugal. And these are all the global patients organization members who attended the meeting. Rare Diseases Day 2018 was observed in Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi, and IORD had observed it. So there was a conference, and here there's a slide. Dr. Nadda, our minister, and then Ramaiah was there, and then Jitendra Prasad was there, and I'm just forgetting.
Rubby ji, can I just interrupt? Sorry, is it? Can we? I think a lot of us are interested to know more about PID first. We can come back to
Yeah. Actually,
yes,
okay. So
we don't know anything about PID. I think all of us are very keen to know
I think
more
only
about PID.
2-3 slides. How many? I'm not sure.
Sure. Okay.
2-3 slides more are left for about these activities. Then we'll go for PID. Is it okay?
Yeah, please. Please, go ahead.
Yeah. So these are some of the slides showing that only Rare Diseases Day, and this is SSHPGTI Noida. There also we had a conference. Dr. Neeta Radhakrishnan was there, and this is about the IPSPI supporting ORDI event for awareness on rare diseases, Race for 7, and this is one of our activity about with AMSA. Yeah, this was the slide that I was telling it was missing. IPSPI event in collaboration with AMSA India, Walk for Awareness of PID in Jantar Mantar, New Delhi. And that was a good awareness for all the PG residents because they are our future to diagnose PIDs. So this is also one of the slides showing the IPSPI booth that was held in international conference in Leela, Mumbai on March 9 to 11, 2019. And Mr. Kapse, he's our General Secretary, and he was also there along with us. And Dr. Revathi Raj is there, and other doctors like Dr. Mukesh Desai and international doctors. We held a CMI on PID in Hindu Rao Hospital also, NDMC Medical College, Delhi. And these are some of the slides showing that. Dr. Manas Kalra was along with us as the speaker, and Dr. Dinesh Kaul was the speaker. And this is one of the slides showing the meeting, the regional meeting held in Bangkok. And then in 2019, we had a workshop on PID in MAMC, LN Hospital, Lok Nayak Hospital in 2019. And these are the slides that was held under the chair person chaired by Dr. Urmila Jha. And we had a lot of speakers. Dr. Seema Kapoor was also there, and we had a very good meeting there. And the patient families, some of few patient families had also attended. We had the patient doctors interactive session also. Dr. Dinesh Kaul was also the speaker. Dr. Bagri was the speaker, and few others. Again, we had a CME on PID in 2019 in LN Hospital. That was a 2 days workshop. And Dr. Srini Kaveri from France was also there. Then that was also under the chair of Dr. Urmila Jha, Dr. Seema Kapoor. So this is one of the slides showing about the roundtable discussion on draft national policy for the rare diseases that was held on 7th February 2020. We happened to be there and contributed. So yes, now we come to PID scenario. First of all, like as Mr. Samir was telling about PID, like PID are genetic diseases of the immune system, wherein one or more components of the immune system is missing or does not work properly. So what is the PID scenario? Is there a need for advocacy in India? Yeah, of course, because extremely low PID awareness levels are there. Still, it goes undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. Clinical immunology is not given the attention that it deserves in the teaching curriculum of medical schools in India. As you know, only simple blood tests, including a full blood count, and that is CBC, and measurement of type of antibodies, serum immunoglobulins in the blood, can be done in suspected immune deficient patient. And inadequate lab testing facilities to we do have inadequate lab testing facilities to confirm PID diagnosis. Lack of formal training for the clinical and lab diagnosis of PID. Vast majority of children with PID in India never get diagnosed, and consequently they succumb to their illness in early childhood, and adults with PID continue to suffer from illness and permanent organ damage due to undiagnosis, misdiagnosis, late diagnosis. So there is a extreme need for advocacy in India because PID is misdiagnosed or undiagnosed, and due to that there is permanent organ damage and or even death. So what are the current issues faced by PID patients for the treatment? By immunoglobulin IVIG therapy. As you know that PIDs, the treatment for severe forms of PID, that is like SCID or CGD, usually that BMT, bone marrow transplant, because these cases, bone marrow transplant or the stem cell therapy works for them, because these cases have to be picked up in infancy or early childhood. Otherwise, in the severe combined immune deficiency, where even the newborn screening is very much essential, which has been included in USA, almost all the states of US, whereas in India, it has not yet started. So we continue to lose lives of patients suffering with SCID. But for the mainstay treatment for other forms of PID is immunoglobulin therapy. That works well for them. So treatment by immunoglobulin therapy, current scenario of availability of IVIG has improved. Firstly, like this intravenous immunoglobulin were being exported. Were being imported. And all the imported drugs were available, which were very expensive. But now with times, there is availability of IVIG in India itself, because a lot of biopharma companies have come up who are manufacturing IVIG in India. So cost per 5 grams is around INR 7,000 to 12,000. Of course, MRP is higher, but still, like as these patients need it for lifetime, and it's a lifelong therapy. Usually it is 400 to 600 mg per kg of the body weight every 3 to 4 weeks. So you know very well the position in India. It becomes out of reach for families to support the therapy on a regular basis, because the cost of treatment per annum is approximately 84,000 INR for a baby, and which increases to 5,04,000 for an adult as the baby grows up. So like as a proportion of average household income, if you see about the IVIG therapy cost, then for 1 year it is 5 grams, so it is around 25% of the average household income, and for 5 years it will be double, that is 10 grams, and it becomes 50% of the household income. For 10 years baby, it is 15 grams, so it becomes to, you can say, 75% of the average household income. For 15 years, it is 20 to 25 grams, which is 100 to 125%. And as the child grows up, gets the adult weight around 20 years and more than that, it becomes 25 to 30 grams, which is 125 to 1%, 150% of the average household income. So it becomes, it is impossible for any patient family to meet these expenses out of their pockets. So rare diseases like PIDs are an important public health issue and challenge to medical care. As I mentioned that some PIDs are very rare, for example, SCID, others, but other more common are the selective IgA deficiency. Together diagnosed PIDs may affect around 1% in 1200. It is estimated that 10 million people suffer with PID worldwide. And based on that, more than 1 million in India are estimated to suffer from PID. Currently, we have statistics of more than 1,500, nearly 2,000, you can say. PID patients nationwide have been diagnosed. The most common forms of PID patients diagnosed suffer from hypogammaglobulinemia, common variable immune deficiency, CVID, then Bruton's disease or X-linked agammaglobulinemia, XLA, CGD, chronic granulomatous disease, hyper IgM syndrome. So these are some of the very important points for PID, like timely diagnosis is very important for the primary immune deficiency patients. Definitive treatment before infection, otherwise there is an organ damage. Infections remain major cause of morbidity and mortality. Regular IVIG replacement therapy for the most common forms of PID, ensuring adherence to prophylactic regimen, prompt diagnosis and treatment of infection. So though the road has been very challenging for IPSPI, it's nearly 2 decades we are working in this field, but yes, we do have achievements. Our great efforts and lobbying for more than a decade with center and state government of India has resulted in inclusion of PID in government agenda. PID treatment is provided by government under national health schemes in some states of India. We reiterate that IPSPI has been struggling from last 18 years for the survival of PID patients for the first time in Indian history. Our children diagnosed in time and taking regular treatment are now adults and leading social, productive, rewarding lives. Challenges for PID community. We do have so many challenges. PID patients continue to lose lives due to inadequate lab testing facilities within their reach and coverage of treatment. It is very necessary that we should have lab testing facilities in all the zones and state-wise. Our PID community needs support of stakeholders for early diagnosis and treatment. Daycare centers for management of common forms of PID should be set up, which are very, very few till now. Newborn screening for severe forms of PID is essential as adopted in almost all the states of USA. More BMT centers should be set up to save lives of diagnosed KID, VAS, hyper IgM syndrome, CGD cases. Genetic counseling should be freely available in the diagnostic centers as there is a lot of social stigma once the diagnosis is confirmed in any patient family. PID a visible or invisible disability? Yes, just like hemophilia, thalassemia, etc. PID too is a visible, invisible disability as it disables the patient from leading a normal life since parts of the immune system is missing or does not function properly. So inclusion of PID in the Disabilities Act is critically important and needs to be done at the earliest. In World PI Week, we have some infographics shared by our International Patient Organization for Primary Immune Deficiencies, IPOP. And these are the 5 key principles: patient-centered care in primary immune deficiencies. Each individual is different. One size does not fit all. Working with patients when they are not around, that is also very essential. Then involving multiple actors. Patient benefit is the end goal of care. So these 5 key principles that have been set up by our International Patient Organization are the guiding factor for us. Recent developments in the field of PID, HSCT or XLA has been successfully done and being reviewed in India as it is a cost-effective alternative to long-term IVIG in developing nations. Of course, it is very challenging because XLA actually or Brutons, this IVIG replacement therapy is being followed in all the European nations, UK, USA, everywhere. But in India, they had tried and they could do it successfully in 2 of the cases. But of course, gene therapy is very promising as genome editing is under clinical trials. So this is very promising for hyper IgM as well as for XLA. Now, these are some of the warning signs. These were developed by the Jeffrey Model Foundation Medical Advisory Board. For the children, it is 4 or more new year infections within 1 year, 2 or more serious sinus infections within 1 year, 2 or more months on antibiotics with little effect. Very common symptoms, which points out for the underlying cause of primary immune deficiency diseases or disorders. 2 or more pneumonias within 1 year, failure of an infant to gain weight or grow normally, recurrent deep skin or organ abscesses, persistent thrush in mouth or fungal infection on skin, need for intravenous antibiotics to clear infections, 2 or more deep-seated infections, including septicemia, family history of primary immune deficiency. So these are some of the very important 10 warning signs that should not be, means like that should be paid attention to. For adults also almost similar, only little difference is there. 1 pneumonia per year for more than 1 year, chronic diarrhea with weight loss. Then there is 2 or more serious sinus infections within 1 year in the absence of allergy, 2 or more new year infections within a year. Little changes are there. Recurrent viral infections, colds, herpes, warts. Then recurrent need for intravenous antibiotics to clear infections. Then recurrent deep abscesses of the skin or internal organs, persistent thrush or fungal infection on skin or elsewhere, infection with normally harmless tuberculosis like bacteria, family history of primary immune deficiency. Actually, PIDs, it's not essential that, of course, the most common forms, the symptoms are picked up in childhood itself. But for CVID and all, these patients are diagnosed in adulthood. Usually, the symptoms appear in adulthood. So, and it takes time also, sometimes 7 years, 10 years, 12 years for the diagnosis. So they reach the adulthood and then only they are diagnosed. Early diagnosis of PID can save lives and prevent permanent organ damage. This is very important. So PIDs have to be diagnosed in time to save their lives. And that's why the awareness is very much essential. And our organization, IPSPI, aims to work for the awareness programs and projects for the treatment and education of PIDs amongst doctors, parents, legislators, and government officials. We work to improve the quality of life of people with PIDs in India. Main objective is to secure early diagnosis and adequate treatment for all those affected with PID in accordance with current medical standards. You can like us on Facebook. We are there, very much there. Indian Patient Society for Primary Immune Deficiency. You can follow us on Instagram, IPSPA PID. So it is now nearly 2 decades we are working for the primary immune deficiency diseases disorders for the support of the patients affected with primary immune deficiencies disorders in India. But you know, the road is very challenging and a very long one. So I end up here. Thank you so much. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. These are some of the beautiful lines by Robert Frost, which I can recollect here. So thank you so much for the patient hearing about IPSPL.
Thank you, Ruby ji. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation and insight into the kind of work that you do and telling us more about PID per se. Thank you so much for sharing all this information.
Yeah,
we have Dr. Seema Kapoor with us today, and we'd like to thank her for joining us this morning. Ma'am, would you like to add something to what Ruby ji has just told us? Dr. Seema Kapoor, can you hear me? Maybe she'll join in later. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Ruby ji? Any questions? Maybe if others don't, I have a few. Ruby ji, you mentioned that there is different set of diagnosis or symptoms which you can see in childhood and adult.
Yeah.
So does it mean that even if you may have PID in your childhood, you only are able to see those conditions when you have become an adult, and that's the time when you get a diagnosis?
Yes. Usually, for the most common forms of PID, like XLA, then SCID, as I mentioned, SCID, of course, in early childhood, they have to be diagnosed and picked up in their few months of life, means like when they are around 1 month old or 2 months old, because their total immune system is at risk, T cells, B cells, everything not functioning, all haphazard. So they cannot survive without having bone marrow transplant in time. Whereas the others like XLA, Brutons and all, usually when they have the maternal antibodies from the mother, so they are covered up. And as they grow, means like 8 to 9 months old, as the maternal antibodies are less, and now their immune system starts functioning well. So at that time, they start having problems like as there is antibody deficiency, so they have recurrent infections, like the symptoms I mentioned, like cold, cough, fever, then ear infections, pneumonia, etc. And whereas in so there, if they are diagnosed in time, and if the treatment is started with immunoglobulins, they can do well, and that is a ongoing therapy, lifelong. It has to be taken till the gene therapy comes up, and that has to be taken every month. Whereas for the other, like CVID and all, usually these symptoms are less in childhood, and as they grow, like when they reach adulthood, it becomes more severe, because they are producing immunoglobulins, but they are not producing good immunoglobulins, so there also they have that deficiency, and the mutation of genes is usually, it's difficult to find for them in case of CVID and all. So generally these cases are picked up in adulthood. So of course the symptoms, the signs are there, like I told that in childhood and adulthood, little difference is there, there two or more sinus infections become more severe in adulthood, and one pneumonia per year as in adulthood, whereas in this childhood, it is more like two or more. So that is the difference. Otherwise, like, common infections are there, mostly the infections. If the child or adult is getting more and more infections, then it really points out to the primary immune deficiency, presence of primary immune deficiency diseases, disorders, which can be ruled out by a simple blood test. So a physician or pediatrician seeing them can write that simple blood test for them and have that CBC, and then after that they can go for lymphocyte subset analysis, and get the CD14, 19, all the CD8 worked up, and then they can get a clue about what is going wrong in the immune system, and why the patient is suffering so much, child or adult.
Yeah, but I'm just imagining that the condition or the symptoms seem to be very common. I mean, this
Yes.
is in children, you see every children catching a cold and cough, and pneumonia also. In some of the children, they end up catching up pneumonia as well. Yeah, some are fragile, and they are not picking up weight, and we always say it's a growing age. Some put weight and some don't. And what would the CBC report tell you? Because the CBC is only going to, even if you, and normally you would go for a CBC when you're not well. You've already had some fever or you've had some infection and you go for a CBC, you will see, yes, there is infection in the body. So how would the CBC report tell you more about it?
Yeah, actually, I'm not a doctor, so I can't comment more on that. But yes,
Okay,
doctors
okay,
do say that CBC counts, like when they get it, the reports, like if it is very much elevated, the lymphocytes and all counts and all, then it points out for the other tests to be done. Of course, then they have to go for lymphocyte subset analysis, that is
okay,
CD4, 8, 19 and all, and then they
okay,
can pick up rightly that there is something wrong in the immune system, and this may be the case of primary immune deficiency diseases disorder. So that's why we
okay.
say that just a simple blood test can rule out the possibility of underlying primary immune deficiency disease disorder.
Okay, so that will probably be the first step to a diagnosis.
Yes,
If
yes,
you are
yeah.
not feeling well and you have these infections recurrently, then probably you need to, when you get the CBC, you probably need to compare what is happening, and then that could give you an indication to
Yes, yes.
get
Actually,
further
yeah,
investigation
when you
done.
do the CBC, the WBC counts and all, like and lymphocyte counts, everything like comes up, and there is a total picture. And of course, there are experts who can pick up from there, and then they can go for the detailed test like lymphocyte subset analysis, and then they get the specific answer for that.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody else? You also mentioned something like HSCT. What is that? You mentioned two things about HSCT and XLA.
Yeah.
This was in the treatment, I think, options that you were talking about.
Yes, yes, that was for the HSCT, means like the bone marrow transplant and the stem cell, what they do, that immunophenotyping and all, whether it is a matched one or that is the particular, that is they are using that term. And then
Okay.
for XLA, it is X-linked A gamma globinemia. So for XLA or Bruton's, we call it Bruton's A
Okay.
gamma globinemia. Bruton's was a scientist actually, Bruton,
Okay.
who
Okay.
discovered this Bruton's A gamma globinemia. So,
Okay. Okay.
for these specific cases of X-linked or Brutons, actually in US, means in the developed nations like US, UK, Europe, they don't go for this BMT or
Mm-hmm.
stem cell for XLA, because
Okay.
immunoglobulins therapy works well for them. And here in India, till now, we are only having IVIG, intravenous immunoglobulins available. Whereas there they have shifted to SCIG, subcutaneous immunoglobulin. That is just like a diabetic patient takes insulin, no? So they also
Yeah.
take
Okay.
every week, every 5 to 7 days, because that is much better, because the graph is maintained. Whereas
Yeah.
when we take intravenous immunoglobulins, like it is more dosage you have to take, and in the 4th week the level falls. So at that
Okay.
time again there is a chance of getting infections. The child is again
Okay.
exposed because that level comes down. Whereas
Okay.
in case of subcutaneous immunoglobulins, the graph is maintained every 5 to 7 days. You just take it not muscular, it is just under the skin,
Okay.
just like insulin for a diabetic patient, and that works
Okay.
very well for them. Even in India it is available now, but still we have not shifted to that because it is very expensive, and it is not freely available also. Only one company, I think, they have started this SCIG. So that's what I was stating. Like in Europe and US, UK, means in all the developed nations, they are not going for BMT or stem cell. They are waiting for the gene therapy. Whereas in India, like this, we do not have insurance support, and even government support is not available at all in all the states and all. So they tried, our scientists and doctors, they tried for the stem cell therapy and in this bone marrow transplant. And for the 2 cases, they did it, and they did it successfully for XLA. And that's a good news for us. But still, we are looking forward to gene therapy. And last meeting, actually, one of the organization for XLA globally has been formed in USA, and they had a webinar on that, and it was so interesting to hear that already the clinical trials, means like clinical trials will start in 2 to 3 years for gene therapy of XLA, and already the work is going on. And that's a
Wonderful.
that was a very good news for all.
Sure. Yeah. I agree with you. So, Dr. Seema Kapoor, if you can hear me, are you there? Dr. Seema Kapoor, are you there?
She's muted, I think.
Yeah, she is. But Dr. Seema Kapoor, if you're there, you can unmute yourself. I don't know if there. Okay. Anyway, any other questions for Ruby ji?
Yeah. Hi, Sameer ji. Hi,
Hello, Ji.
Ruby. How are you? And it's a very interesting topic on which you are working. And I really wanted to know that as you mentioned that a lot of infections happens in this kind of problem. So are these infections contagious? Like, can they be spreaded out or to somebody else, to the family or something else like this?
No, primary immune deficiency diseases are not contagious. They cannot be spread because, like, actually the immune system is weak, and that's why the child or adult suffers with primary immune deficiency disease or disorder. So, of course, it's not contagious because usually they don't get viral infections. Usually, what they are getting is bacterial infections.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. So, yeah, because I totally understand when the child or the adult gets repeated sinus or any kind of infection in the body. So of course that becomes a concern to other people also, whether it will be contagious or not. But yes, I understand that this is a viral. It's not a viral infection.
Usually it's not viral. Of course, they may get, but usually they get bacterial infections more. They are prone to bacterial infections. Means the bacteria that may not be harmful to a healthy person is harmful for them because their immune system is weak and they produce less antibodies, and that's why these infections are more. They are more prone to the more common type of infections. Because when I said that pneumonias and all, so there also you will observe that the common pneumonias, common cold and cough turns to be pneumonia for them because they have the antibody deficiency. If they have the B cell defect where the antibody production is absent or almost low, or they sometimes they have B and T cell defect, and in that case also, on the common type of infections are more severe for them.
Okay, thank you.
Ruby ji, how many members do you have in your society right now?
Currently our of course we have good registry, but around we have 1,000 plus, you can say.
Okay. And they are all spread all across the country, all over India.
Yeah, all over India we have members, and of course like sometimes it's very severe and type of primary immune deficiency in a family, and so few we have lost also.
So what has been, do you also know how many of them are actually going in for the treatment or have continued with the treatment, what is available that you just mentioned?
Yes. About that immunoglobulin therapy, intravenous immunoglobulin therapy, actually, as I told you earlier, it was out of pocket expenses, and we tried from our society to get some, do some fundraising and all, but it's impossible, because this is an ongoing therapy and it is lifelong therapy. So now the government has come forward, and in some states, government is providing somewhere through NHM, somewhere through some like uh, some amount, and somewhere like through chief minister's relief fund. So all the way we are trying to support our patients, and they are getting this treatment regularly. If they are able to get this treatment regularly, they are able to lead a socially productive life. And for other forms like SCID and all, of course that BMT has to be done, bone marrow transplant, at a very early age, and that has also been done. There are a few centers where it is being done, like in Punjab, then Chennai, Dr. Reti Raj is also doing it, and other doctors are also there who have done this BMT and stem cell. And others like CGT and other cases, there also BMT works, or the other some interferon, some of course now still now it is being imported. These drugs have to be taken by them, and that also works well for them. So there are number of therapies, number of treatments, but main thing is that these cases should be picked up in time. They should be diagnosed at an earlier stage. Otherwise, they have the permanent organ damage, like in antibody deficiency and other primary immune deficiency diseases. Usually the lungs, they are affected, and like we have lost a few of our patients, one lung being affected, and then the other one, and bronchitis and other problems. So they become
so
very
the comorbidities actually become very difficult to handle in these cases, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Dr. Seema Kapoor, I think, has joined us. Dr. Seema Kapoor, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Seema.
Dr. Seema Kapoor? I think she's still not there. So what has been your experience during this COVID time? Because as I understand this, it's a compromise on the immunity system. The immune system is compromised. So what did you see any, because this is a pandemic, which was basically very, very, I should say, people who had their immune system compromised, they were the most vulnerable. So did you find that the instances of people catching COVID was higher in this pandemic?
No, not like that, because in XLA or Dutons, it was just like other, means like if other person can get it, the normal person, I mean to say, the same way here also. It was not that way that all were affected or anything, but yes, they had taken special precautions, like the patients who were diagnosed with PIDs, they knew that they suffer with this problem, and their immune system is not good enough. So they took special precautions that by maintaining social distancing, masking, and remaining at home. Even the adults who were working, they were working from home. So they were saved. And of course, few of them got this COVID also. But it's not that way that all of them got COVID. But yes, it was very challenging for them to get the treatment at that time, because this is an ongoing therapy, as I told you, immunoglobulin replacement therapy. Then going to hospitals was a big challenge, because all the hospitals were full of COVID patients, and so at that time, few of our patients, they tried to get the injections out of pocket and take it in home, privacy of their home, because not to be exposed to that kind of environment, because it could have been fatal for them at that time. Especially at that time of when there was a severe COVID, the second wave.
Yeah, that's right.
So at that time, it was really challenging, and it was really difficult, because we don't have that daycare centers also. Like when you go to hospitals, it's very difficult that they'll get in isolation, they can give them.
Yeah, that's true. I understand that.
And even coming and going was really very challenging. So at that time, they have been saved if they have taken the therapy at home. So somehow they have managed, the patients have managed, and they are good enough. And of course, a few of them got infected with COVID, but it was not that severe. They took that kind of, means the same, like IVIG replacement therapy, along with that medicine, whatever you give to normal.
Okay. And the vaccination also has had no
vaccination
challenges.
Like vaccination, of course, for XLA and other also forms of primary immune deficiencies, usually the live vaccines have not to be given. So because they can react, even the polio vaccine can react, BCG can react. So live vaccines have not to be given. Only the dead inactivated
virus.
Inactivated,
So the Covishield. So
No,
Covishield was not
Covaxin.
good.
Covaxin.
Covaxin was all
Yeah,
right.
Covaxin.
Okay.
That was advised by our doctors.
Okay. Because
And they have
this is what was running in my mind also, that
Yeah.
if your immune system is compromised, and then if you go in for a live virus, that in itself can create more trouble for you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions? If not, then we can probably end the session. Any more questions from anybody? Well, okay. Thank you, Rubiji, for this wonderful session, for sharing all the information about your organization, telling us more about the disease in itself, and also, sharing what could be the symptoms, how we can probably diagnose it better, and what needs to be done once the diagnosis is done, what kind of options for treatments are available. And it was really wonderful to know, because yes, I'd heard about this, but I had not really gone into got so much of information which you have shared in such simple and easy to understand ways. Thank you so much for being with us today, this morning, Sunday morning, and sharing all this information. Prasannaji, would you like to add anything?
Nothing else, Amirji. All that I can say is her hard work from last 10 years is giving some fruits, and
Absolutely.
helpful to some patients in India community.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I wish all her the best. Wish all the best in her future endeavors. Thank you, Rubiji,
Sure.
for sharing your
Thank you,
Thank you
Rubiji.
so much.
journey.
Thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you, everybody else, for
Thank you.
sparing your time this Sunday morning
Thanks a
with
lot.
us. Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.